don't even really have a specific formula for this. I didn't save up a certain amount of money. I didn't, you know, I don't know, I didn't have a real plan. I'm just going with what my intuition is telling me to do. Alright guys, so my brows are already done because I really cannot do them on camera. I've also already primed my skin with the Urban Decay All Nighter Face Primer. So I am officially 100% self-employed boss babe, working for myself. If you've been following me for a long time, you know that this has been a journey for me. There were times where I was about to give up. There were times where I wasn't sure this is what I wanted to do. There were times where I didn't even think that this was for me. But ever since I was little, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to work for myself. And as I got older and I really started to see the benefits of working for myself, I really started to want to become my own boss. But it's not as easy as, you know, social media makes it look. So in this video, I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my journey, how I got to where I am now, and just what my goals are for next year and beyond. I think it goes without saying that 2020 threw a lot of us off in all different types of ways, but I can honestly say I learned so much this year. I grew so much this year, and this year really set me up to be in a good position to work for myself full-time. So let's just take it all the way back. If you've been here for a while, then you already know like the early stages of my story. But I am originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Born and raised there. I'm 23 years old, by the way. I'll be 24 next month. Shout out to all my January Aquarius. So yeah, I'm 23. I'll be 24 next month, and I'm from Baltimore. Pretty much my whole life, I've been into the arts. I started dancing when I was like 2 years old, and I continued dancing all the way through until I graduated high school pretty much. I went to a performing arts middle school, and I went to a performing arts high school. So I've always been around very artsy people. Even though I went to performing arts middle school, my concentration there was environmental science, but I would still always be with the art kids. But then once I got to high school, my concentration was dance. And so I danced every single day. I also did dance outside of school. I went to a studio called Studio A. I had been dancing there since I was like 5. And even though I enjoyed dancing, I knew that I wasn't going to pursue dance as a career. Like, it just wasn't something that I felt like I wanted to make a career for myself for a bunch of different reasons, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But starting in middle school, I kind of started to like make little ideas of businesses that I would have. It's so weird to think back at it now, because it's like, when you're in middle school, how are you already thinking of business ideas, you know? And then once I got to high school and I went natural with my hair, and I started getting into social media and following natural hair influencers and watching YouTube videos of people styling their natural hair, then I decided I wanted to get into it, because I've also always had a love for photography and film. So I was like, you know what? Since I'm going natural with my hair, people are always asking me questions about my hair. I might as well start a channel and just talk about it. But I actually had a YouTube channel with 2 friends before I even started my own channel. It was called True Sage. I'm sure my OG followers already knew that or used to watch those videos. That didn't last long though, because I don't know, we were young and it just didn't work out. So after that is when I really decided to make my own channel, and that was in 2014. So that was about a year after I had did my big chop, because my very first big chop, like from my last relaxer, was in 2013, which is so crazy to think that was 7 years ago. So my very first video on this channel was a twist out video, and that was about a year into me being natural, since, you know, having my big chop and growing out my natural hair. From the beginning, I never really saw YouTube as something that I could make a living off of, especially because back then nobody really was. Like, everybody was just kind of on YouTube, So I'm not gonna say I didn't take it seriously, because I definitely put the effort into it, and I definitely worked really hard to grow my following, but I didn't really have like an end goal at that point. And truthfully, I still don't, but I just say that to say, when I started this, I didn't think that it would be a job for me, and it wasn't my intention to make it a job for me. So like I said, I started that in 2014, and that was my like sophomore year of high school. So I kept doing YouTube all through high school. So my sophomore year, my junior year, my senior year, and then of course at your senior year, it's time to think about going to college. And like I said, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew that I liked photography and I liked film, I liked editing, I liked learning about business. So I ended up just going with a business major. It was something that was very like vague and something that you could do a lot of things with. So I was like, let me just do business. It's honestly very hard at 18 to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I also knew that I didn't want to go to school in Maryland. I knew that I wanted to go out of state. So I really started doing a lot of research on just colleges and places out of state. I also kind of knew that I wanted to be somewhere warm just because I wasn't used to that growing up in Maryland. And I had actually came to Miami during my junior year of high school. I came for like a dance competition or something, and I literally fell in love with it. That was my first time coming to Miami, and I loved it. Didn't really see myself going to school here, but I loved it so much that I was like, one, I have to go back again. And two, like, I just love the city. Like, I love the people, I love the vibe. And when I came, I got to really experience it because we stayed in like downtown Miami. So I got to see that. I got to see South Beach, all within like my first time coming here. So while I was doing research to try to find a college to go to, I came across Florida International University. And initially I was like, you know what? Maybe I could go there for international business. So that way I could do something, I don't know. I really didn't have an idea. I was just like, international business sounds cool. So I ended up applying, I got in, and yeah, I went to FIU. Like I said, I started off as international business major, but that didn't last long because I hate math. I absolutely hate math. And there was so much math required in all the business majors that I was like, okay, no. I was like, I'm not doing this. And honestly, like, you're gonna hear me say that a lot in this story because I'm a very like intuitive person. I kind of know what's right for me and what's not. And even though it's always a risk to kind of go against what seems right and what feels right, I always go with what feels right. So I was like, okay, I gotta change my major. And I started looking into other majors. And when I do research, I really do research. Like, I could do research for fun. So at this point also, my YouTube was doing pretty well. Like, still not making a ton of money. Still not something that I saw myself doing full time. But I was, you know, I was getting a lot of subscribers, getting a lot of views. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do something in communications since that kind of aligns with what I do with YouTube anyway. I ended up deciding that I wanted to do PR. So I was a PR major for about half a semester. And then I decided that I wanted to try out regular communications because I didn't like some of the work that came with PR. And also in my research, it kind of seemed like a lot of people in PR didn't make much money. Well, I don't want to say made much money because, you know, everybody's money preferences are different, but the kind of money that I knew I wanted to make, I didn't really feel like I could make in that field. So I switched to just standard communications. But then, like, by the grace of God, FIU came out with this major called Digital Media and Communications, and it came out right in time for me to be able to switch my major from PR and still take the classes that I needed to graduate on time. And it aligned so well with everything that I was doing with YouTube because I would be learning how to make content. I'll be learning like Adobe Photoshop and Adobe, just all the Adobe apps was a main focus in that major, but while also focusing on digital communications. So that would help me with outreach, learning how to write on social media, learning how to blog and all that stuff. It was perfect. So I ended up switching to that major and I did enjoy it. But to be honest, I didn't learn as much as I thought I was going to learn. It was kind of like a reinforcement of everything that I was already doing with my YouTube channel. So I didn't get much out of it, even though, you know, it aligned well with what I was doing. I had already known a lot of the stuff. So what I ended up doing was just going with that major. And I ended up acing all my classes because I already knew everything. And then I graduated. And it kind of felt good, even though I didn't learn much. It felt good just to have a piece of paper, like, saying, you know, I'm good at this, you know? It looks good on my resume, even though I'm not gonna really be using a resume anymore. And it just feels good to know that I'm like low-key certified in what I do. So yeah, I graduated in May of 2019, which was last year. And I decided that I wanted to stay in Miami instead of going home after graduating. I had a roommate, her name is Kira. You guys probably have seen her in my videos before. We were roommates our freshman year of college and our sophomore year of college. But when I switched my major to communications, I ended up having to move to a different campus because like FIU has two big campuses, one in South Miami and one in North Miami. And because I switched my major, all of my communications classes were at the North Campus. So I had to move. And Kira was still at the South Campus. So we ended up having to split. But had we had stayed on the same campus all 4 years, we probably would have been roommates all 4 years as well, because we just worked well together. You know, it's kind of hard to find somebody that you can live with comfortably. And honestly, like after our freshman year, we had got extremely close. We felt really comfortable around each other. So yeah, and even though we had split campuses, we still talked all the time. We still went out when we could. Like, she would come all the way to the North Campus to see me. I would go to the South Campus to see her. So we kept in touch and we just remained close. So we had both decided, because she is actually from Tampa. And Tampa is like 4 hours from Miami. So she decided after graduating that she was also going to stay here and not move back home. So we were like, okay, we might as well be roommates again and get our own place. And mind you, we don't settle, okay? So we weren't gonna move somewhere that we weren't comfortable. We weren't gonna move somewhere that we didn't really like the area of. So we actually ended up moving to Pembroke Pines, which is right outside of Miami. You guys have probably seen the videos where I talk about our journey to getting our own apartment and everything that went into that. It was really like an adulting culture shock for me, because you know, I was new to everything. Luckily, I had built a good amount of credit, you know, and I had decent income because I was always working and I was still doing YouTube. You know, it made it pretty easy for me to be set up to get a good apartment. I actually forgot to mention all the jobs that I had through college, because that's kind of important too. So my sophomore year of college is when I got my first job here in Miami. And I worked at Bloomingdale's in the cosmetic department. I had worked for like a small brand called Techniche. I was the youngest person there by like a lot. Like, I had one friend that worked there with me. Her name was Bessie. Hey girl, she still watches my videos, I think. But yeah, Bessie was the closest one to my age, and she was like 3 years older than me. But at Bloomingdale's is where I really kind of got introduced to the beauty industry. More on a professional level, I would say, because I was always used to doing beauty on YouTube, but not really in person or like in the real world, I guess you could say. So at Bloomingdale's, I learned about a bunch of new brands. I learned the basics of like beauty sales. I learned how to apply makeup, about skincare, pretty much everything. And like I said, I worked there in my sophomore year of college. Then my junior year of college, when I switched campuses and I moved to like northern Miami, I got a job at Nordstrom, which was kind of like a step up because I was able to work with a bunch of different brands. At Nordstrom, I was considered a beauty stylist, and that role was kind of like a personal stylist, but for beauty. So I would take like little master classes for each different brands that Nordstrom sold, so I could learn about all of them. And it kind of worked really well with my beauty thing that I was doing on YouTube, because I already was familiar with a lot of brands, trying a lot of new brands, doing makeup online and everything. And Nordstrom doesn't just have like makeup and skincare, they also have like technology tools for beauty. They sell like candles and home things. So I just was able to do it all there. And as a beauty stylist, like I said, it's kind of like a personal stylist. People would book appointments with me to talk to me about how to find the best skincare products for them, how to find the best makeup. And I would literally be able to walk different customers to different counters in Nordstrom and create like a personal bag for them and their needs. So that is where I really learned how to figure out what products are best for what type of skin or what type of hair or whatever needs that anyone has. But then I ended up leaving Nordstrom because it was actually full-time hours and I was still in school. So imagine me working 40 hours a week at Nordstrom and then still having all of my classes, still doing homework and studying and everything. It was a lot. So I ended up leaving Nordstrom to focus a little bit more on school because I really wanted to finish school. But then I was broke. So I'm like, okay, I need to get a new job. Where am I gonna work? I still need something flexible because I still want to focus on school and focus on YouTube. So I had a friend who worked at Apple and was also in the influencer space. His name is Tyler. Hey, Tyler. And we met actually here in Miami at an event. And he told me, like, you should apply for Apple because it's very flexible. You know, they'll give you the vacation time you need and you'll be able to work part-time and still do school and do YouTube. Plus, I figured I'd be able to learn a lot at Apple about, you know, the different products and different applications I'd be using for my YouTube. So that was something major for me. Any job that I had, it had to provide me with something that I could take and implement into my YouTube. Because I knew that I didn't know what I was going to get out of YouTube, but I knew that eventually like all the hard work would pay off and I'd be able to do something with it, you know? So I was like, anything that I was doing, it had to help me grow in this. And so yeah, I applied to Apple in December of 2018, and I just continued working there even after graduation, all through the first year of me living with my roommate. So I was able to work at Apple part-time and still do YouTube after graduating college. So that's pretty much how I made a living and how I paid all my bills. But there were honestly times where I wasn't making enough through YouTube because it was very inconsistent back then. Even though my numbers were growing, I still wasn't making much money. I was not getting much sponsorships. And mind you, I had just graduated college, so I kind of started to feel like, damn, I have other friends or other people around me that are getting full-time jobs, that are set, and I just felt like I was putting too much energy into YouTube and not getting enough out of it, or not even being able to financially sustain myself. So that was the moment where I was really ready to give up. This was like mid 2019 when I was living with Kira and, you know, first being exposed to what it was like to pay all my bills myself. And like I said, Apple was part-time, so I wasn't, you know, I was making decent pay, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't making like a lot, you know? And the area that we were living in, the type of apartment we were in, it was not cheap. Even with splitting all the bills, it was still kind of a lot for a fresh out college student. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give up YouTube and I'm gonna focus on something that'll make me more money, essentially. And that didn't last long. I tried to go to school for cybersecurity because I was always interested in that as well. You guys probably have heard me talk about it in previous videos. So I went to this technical school here in Florida, and literally 2 weeks into the classes, I was like, no. I was like, I can't do it. Just wanted to stick it out because I was like, I can't give up on this, you know, because I kind of felt like that was going to be my only way to, I don't want to say quickly make money, but it kind of just felt like that was going to be my outlet to have a good and steady career. Because even though I did have a degree in digital media, there weren't many jobs down here in that field, and the ones that were available I applied to and I did not get. So you can imagine how defeated I felt, how I felt like I wasn't succeeding at anything. And if you are like a fresh out college student or just anybody in their early teens trying to figure it out, trust me, you're gonna have times where you feel defeated. You're gonna have times where you want to give up, but just don't. Like, go hard and go heavy on whatever it is that you want to do, because hard work always pays off. There's always going to be barriers. There's always going to be something that throws you off track. But if you stay focused and you just keep working and keep moving, even if at sometimes it doesn't feel like you're moving very far or it doesn't feel like you're doing much, every part of your journey has a reason. And looking back at last year where I was and seeing where I am now, it's really crazy to see what can happen if you keep going. So with that being said, like I said, the cybersecurity thing did not last long. So I ended up leaving that school after investing a good amount of money in that as well. And I was continuing working at Apple part-time and just kept going hard and heavy on my YouTube. The other thing that was really discouraging me though was I didn't have a space like this to film in. At least back when I was in college, I did have my own room, so I could film in there, or I could even go to like the student lounges or like a student library to film. But in my room that I had when I was living with Kira, the space was so small, it was very hard for me to film in there. Sometimes I would try to film in our living room, but obviously I had a roommate, she had friends over, she had her boyfriend there, and it would just be loud sometimes, and I just always felt like I did not have the space that I wanted to film. Because you guys know me, I want everything to look a certain way. I want it to look, you know, good and put together. I wasn't just gonna film something just to film it, and I hated how it looked. So I always felt like, you know, I just don't have the space. I don't have the space. And that's also kind of when I decided, okay, after this year, I need an apartment with 2 bedrooms. Like, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I need to get an apartment where I have my bedroom where I sleep, and then I have my space where I can come and film and work. And mind you, even saying that at that time was crazy to me because I was not making enough money to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. But I just kind of put it out there and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. So like I said, all through 2019, I kept pushing, wasn't getting much sponsorships, wasn't making much off YouTube, but just kept posting. I also kept trying to learn how to improve my content because I wanted to attract bigger brands. You know what I'm saying? I was getting some sponsorships, but they were from smaller brands and they weren't paying much. So I'm like, yo, let me up my content, let me up my quality, which is not easy, by the way. Even though I went to school for this, learning about newer technology, learning how to like do upgraded things on editing software, learning about lighting, learning, you know, just teaching yourself this stuff is not easy. And then on top of that, because I had a certain vision of how I wanted my videos to look, I knew I had to invest more into myself. So whenever I got money, I never spent it on clothes, I never spent it on makeup, I never spent it on anything other than investing into this business, because I knew that the more I put into myself, the more I would be able to make eventually. I don't know how I knew that, but I just knew that, and I was right. I sacrificed a lot of time with my friends. I sacrificed a lot of traveling just to be able to focus and grow. And growing doesn't always mean growing with your followers or growing with your subscribers. It sometimes just means growing internally, becoming a better person yourself, so that way when you're on camera or you're talking to people, you know, your soul is balanced and it radiates to other people. Sometimes I felt like even when I was in college, I was just constantly trying to post, but not really investing in myself in a way that would be able to benefit other people. It's like, yeah, I could post an eyebrow tutorial, I could post a wash and go video, but what about me is projecting onto other people? How am I showing that I'm in a good place so other people can also feel like they could be in a good place, you know? So I did a lot of internal work. I did a lot of, like I said, working on upping my content, and I just kept going. Like, I don't have any other tips, but besides, keep going. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Don't be afraid to mess up. Keep studying other people. That's one major thing. I had to keep watching other successful influencers and had to really see what they do to grow. You don't always have to ask people questions. You can literally see what the successful influencers are doing if you pay attention to the things that they do. So yeah, our lease ended in February of this year, 2020. So I was like, okay, I gotta find somewhere to move. I still didn't really have that much money, you know, like I had saved a good amount of money, but I didn't really have enough to really get like a nice 2-bedroom apartment on my own. So what ended up happening was my mom told me that she would help me out for a few months so that I could get my own place. And I did not want to ask my parents for any more help for anything, honestly, because they had done so much for me growing up. It really crushed my ego to know that I had to ask my mom for help, but I'm so grateful that she did. So I moved to this place in February of 2020, earlier this year. Still didn't really know if my channel was gonna keep growing the way that it was. I didn't know what sponsorships I was gonna get. I didn't know nothing. Like, I just was like, you know, I need this space. I don't know why, but I need it. Literally a month later, in March of this year, I signed with Images Everything, which is the agency that I'm working with now. And so I have a manager. I mentioned her before on my channel. Her name is Miss J Gray. You can check her out on Instagram if you want. I really was afraid to get management because I had seen so many horror stories of other influencers that had bad management. But I did a lot of research on Images Everything. I looked at other influencers that they worked with. I had a lot of conversation with Miss J and everybody that works there. Really had a good feeling about their intentions. Felt like they would really be able to help me not only with my YouTube and growing, but they would also help me get sponsorships. They'd be managing my emails and everything so I can just focus on creating content. And whew, when I say my life has completely changed since signing with them, it's crazy. Not to mention, you guys remember earlier this year I got into the Sephora Squad, which is a year-long paid sponsorship, the biggest sponsorship that I've ever had, the biggest dollar amount that I've ever seen on a contract, okay? And mind you, the agency that I'm in, they're very picky about who they select, so it kind of even felt like an honor to be a part of something like this because it's very small and she has a lot of connections in the industry. You guys have seen, I'm sure that you guys have seen all the great deals that I have been getting recently, and that's all because of them. I kind of knew in my spirit that I needed some help propelling forward in my influencing career because I didn't really know what direction I should be going. I didn't have the right connections to keep getting my name out there, and so I knew I needed a push. I just wanted to make sure that I was getting the push from the right people, and that's where my intuition had to come in again, but it ended up being good. And then me having this space allowed me to create better content, which allowed me to get better and bigger sponsorships. It allowed other brands to find me and see me, which is everything that I wanted. And like, I always knew that I eventually wanted to leave my job and do this full time. I just never felt comfortable enough to do it because everything was always so inconsistent. So this is actually the first time ever where I feel 100% ready to let that chapter of my life go and do this full force. And it's crazy because you guys know my intuition, that's where I get all of my drive and all of my force from. And so for my spirit and my intuition to be telling me like, yes, this is the time to do it, I actually feel at peace. I don't feel nervous. I'm not scared. Of course, I have some fears of like, what if this, what if that, but I tend to push those ideals and those thoughts to the back of my brain and just keep focusing on everything that I have and all the potential that I have moving forward, because it's scary, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love Apple as a company. First of all, I met so many amazing people there. I've gained so many amazing friends. It's an amazing company. I even met the freaking love of my life there. So the experience that Apple gave me and the people that Apple introduced me to, it's just crazy. And Apple was also extremely flexible with me trying to pursue my YouTube and everything. Like, everybody that I worked with, they knew that I was doing YouTube. They knew that if I was calling out or if I had to take a certain amount of days off, it was because I had to work on something, you know? My managers never gave me pushback when it came to that. The main reason why I feel like I have to leave though is because at this point, I'm kind of getting certain projects and certain deals that have very fast turnaround dates, and I don't want to have to say no or I can't do something because I don't have enough time because I gotta work, you know? And even though COVID was really bad for just about all of us, it really did help me out to be able to be working from home now, because once, you know, everything shut down, I started working from home because I was doing chat at home on my computer. So if I wasn't chatting with a customer, I could literally have my other computer right in front of me and edit or work on concepts or something. Whereas when I would have to go to the store, I wouldn't be able to think about my own stuff at all, you know? So it's almost like everything aligned so perfectly for me, but I really don't think that I would have been ready to receive it if I did not put in the work prior to it. Because like I said, I did not see this for myself. I did not envision it for myself. This was not my plan. I just kept going and kept putting the work in. And there were things that I spoke out to the universe that came back to me in ways that I can't even explain. And I feel so grateful to even have the option to work 100% for myself. Like, this is a big deal. Because the way things were looking last year, I was like, I'm gonna be at Apple for like 5-6 more years. But I feel ready to let go and let my wings fly. So now looking forward, what does my 2021 look like? Well, right now my main focus is creating the perfect routine for myself, because it's not as easy as it may seem when you have full control over your schedule. And now having management and having all these deadlines, they be piling up and it can get overwhelming. So I just want to make sure that I am properly managing my time, staying on top of my deadlines, but while also still creating a lot of organic content. So when you have a lot of sponsorships, you kind of have to do double the work if you want to keep up with the organic content. I plan on doing the same type of content I'm doing now. I'm going to keep updating you guys on my hair journey. I'm going to keep doing makeup, keep doing skincare. The Sephora squad is going to continue through April. I'm also in Living Proof's new Curl Crew, which is also a few months partnership where I'll be talking about Living Proof products. You guys have probably seen the Instagram posts that I've done so far. I'll probably be doing YouTube content for them as well. I have a couple other deals in the works. I would love to get to 500,000 subscribers by the end of 2021. It kind of seems like a long shot because I just hit 300,000 this year, but I feel like with me doing it full time, I can do it. Instagram, I really want to get to 150,000 subscribers. Well, not subscribers, but followers. Right now, I'm at like 77. So I kind of want to almost double that. But most importantly, I want to keep inspiring you guys. I want to keep sharing my journey. But yeah, man, my main thing is to just keep getting better at this thing. It's always a journey. Like, every single thing that you go through when you're trying to become your own boss, it's like you get to a level and then you think that you're comfortable. But then if you get comfortable, then you stop growing. So you can't get comfortable. You got to keep going. And honestly, I'm all in for it. I just love the flexibility of working for myself. I love being able to control what I do in the morning, what I do at night. The biggest thing for me with working at Apple was I always worked at night and I never got to see the sun. When I would leave work, it would be dark as hell. As soon as I would get home, I would be knocked out. Then I have to get up early as hell in the morning in order to film before going to work. It was just, I don't know. I'm just glad that I don't have a barrier, you know, stopping me from going full force on this anymore. Not that it wasn't possible, and I'm not telling you guys to leave your jobs to focus on your, you know, your goals full time until you're ready. I don't even really have a specific formula for this. I didn't save up a certain amount of money. I didn't, you know, I don't know. I didn't have a real plan. I'm just going with what my intuition is telling me to do, and I'm ready. I'm ready, and I'm ready to bring you guys along the journey with me. So give me a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed this video. I would really appreciate it. I want to hear some of your goals for next year and some of your goals in life in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hopefully I will see you guys all in my next one. Bye.